recently, after the new 0.2 update for outcome memories, I have really enjoyed it. This is something that I've really enjoyed as a game. It's added a whole lot of polish. I mean, sadly, I didn't record a whole lot of gameplay. The only round I have is one where I am lost embarrassingly bad, and I don't want to show that. But I mean, it's really good. I have a few screenshots that I'll put up both beforehand and afterhand. I mean, the graphical fidelity for a Roblox game is actually insane. And I think it's really a strong entry for just Roblox in general. I would say it's the most polished game on Roblox. But I do feel like balance-wise, there is a few glaring weaknesses. I'll start off with Kolosis and Tripwire. Both of these are the newest ones, and Fleetway has been held off for posting due to balance problems, I'm sure, that are they're being buggy. Either way, I am a little bit happy that happened, because ultimately it is going to make this update a little bit healthier for me and a few others. People are already salty about Colossus. I am salty about Colossus, especially on the day of, and I'll separate this into two parts: the day of salt and the 3 or 4 days after, depending on when I'm actually reading this. For the day of, I was frustrated and disappointed about the update's balance, and overall Colossus was horrible. I hated him. I still do dislike him, but not as much of a point. I've tried looking past the salt. But overall, not yesterday. I need to stop. Overall, the day of, Colossus was clearly overtuned and very impressive as a character. I saw it's basically they could deal around 100 damage because they have the grab, which deals around 60 damage, I think, and then are ragdolls, and it's very hard to escape the ragdoll before they actually get that M1. And I'm a Metal Sonic main, and I'm annoyed by this. I have the highest health in the game, plus a 50% damage resistance. If I think that he deals a little too much damage, I'm sure that someone like a Kree main that's getting targeted out for the fifth match in a row is probably going to be a little bit salty. Charge is really unfair. It's almost impossible to avoid. It's really annoying, and I really hate it. There's, unlike 2011X, there is no flashing red, and it deals damage. You can't really do that with 2011X, because if you don't do it at a good spot, then you can be damaged right out of the animation the moment it happens. But with Colossus, it's uninterruptible, and there is no flashing light. Plus, I feel like they should have done something like with the Hillbilly from Dead by Daylight. With Hillbilly, they have this limited camera turn radius, which makes it harder to control but more rewarding when you do that. I feel like that would add a large skill floor. I do think that he should have had at least a longer windup for grab. It's really annoying. Grab also should have a smaller cooldown. I meant longer windup for charge. Grab should have smaller one, smaller hitbox. LMS feels really hard to win. He's a persistence character, and yeah, this isn't healthy. You're going to lose during LMS. I mean, I found a few successful rounds, but that's because they messed up. And if you have to rely on someone else messing up rather than your own skill, that can be really harmful, especially if you're playing at a high level. And I'm not saying this game needs a competitive mode. I'm just saying that if you're a tryhard, and even if you are mediocre, I just feel like forcing someone to mess up to... No, okay. I mean, having someone mess up and that's the only way to win, that's a little bit wrong. Not wrong, a little bit hard to balance, especially if it's strong if they don't mess up. And the main problem I think Colossus has is just that they completely destroy the Survivor gameplay loop. Instead of having to play around your team and help each other to survive, the best thing you can do is leave your teammate to die and then get distance. Because against Colossus, distance is very important. Their dash we'll get into that more later, but against Colossus, distance is the most valuable thing you can have. And helping your teammates just means you're going to die. And now that I think about it, this is probably a little bit of something that it comes from me being a metal main. I'm not very good at anyone besides metal, but metal is he's gets targeted, right? Because he's got large health, and if you don't keep a consistent chase, he's going to be able to run. And I do like that Colossus is less about picking people off and more is about consistent damage spread across the team. And with Cream not being around, I do think that 2011X and Colossus have a buff, not buffed because they've been buffed like explicitly through numbers and mechanics, but because their Cream's not common anymore. And so you won't really have to worry about targeting them off rip. I do think that just now I feel very similar. I still think he's a little bit overtuned, and I feel like charge is still unfair, but it's possible to avoid, and it's strong, a little too strong, and I do think that it's basically just 2011X's charge, but much better in almost every way. You can say that, yeah, but 2011X can fly. You can fly, but Colossus will eventually catch up, and that's something you can't really stop. And I understand that's the point with killers being slightly faster than survivors, but having Colossus not have a charge, not have a little red indicator, not have any indicator, have a short cooldown, not having any turn radius restriction, dealing consistent damage and getting rewarded no matter how many people are near, meaning rather than with 2011X you have to think about when you're using charge, and if people are close, maybe you shouldn't, but maybe if it's an Eggman in the middle, if you hit the metal with charge, that's a good thing because you thought that out and you used your charge smart there. But with Colossus, it breaks through block. You get rewarded whether it's one person or multiple. You get more rewarded with multiple. There's no thinking. The moment it goes off cooldown, you're basically it's basically optimal just to use it the moment it goes off cooldown. And overall, I don't really enjoy versing it, and I do think that that's the main reason I don't enjoy playing Colossus. I play Tailsdoll / Tripwire, and she's really fun to play, and I'm still going back to 2011X because the maps, they've inadvertently buffed 2011X, and I'll get back to that later. I do think that overall Colossus should get a restricted turn radius for his charge, a longer windup for his charge, and I feel like if you do both of those, the damage and reward is actually understandable. I think grab should have a longer windup, and overall just giving the grab that much damage plus a ragdoll, that's horrible. Either damage or ragdoll, not both. That's horrible just in concept alone, and that's in the game. I'm getting cold. I think make Colossus's tracking a little bit, have a longer cooldown. But as a compensation, I think during Last Man Standings, Colossus should get a speed buff, especially against Sonic, to help compensate for all these nerfs. 2011X, I feel like beforehand he was really decent. I personally, hot take, think that Rage is a really well thought out design concept because he doesn't have the tools typically to just he doesn't typically have this high DPS tools. He is a good tracking and chase starter, but he's not always the best at ending chases. But I do think that Rage really helps with that, alongside it forces survivors to think before stunning, which is something that will come up again with tripwire. Keep that in mind. I think that Rage forces survivors to think a little bit before they jump at him and just start beating the crap out of him. I think that it helps a lot with both sides. It's really well thought out. And while I do think that the timer, like pausing the timer, is a little bit overtuned, maybe keep the timer going, but give him the buff, or maybe just keep it the way it is, because if Kolosis is this overpowered, I feel like if each character has, I feel like 2011X's Rage isn't that bad in comparison. I think that it is a really smart really smart game design, and its ability to prematurely end a stun really does stop the Eggman and Metal combo, where Eggman can slam and immediately after slamming, if an Eggman is near, heal off all that damage. And with a Sonic, you can extend it, making it to where Eggman and Sonic can, not Eggman, Sonic, and Metal Sonic, but mostly Eggman and Metal Sonic. Because you're not going to want to go after Metal Sonic if it's only those. You're not going to want to go after Sonic there, because, well, Sonic's, at least to me, is horrible in LMS, because he basically plays a glorified game of Ring Around the Rosie, because you're just going in a big ass circle the entire match. And I understand that Kolosis is going to suffer against Sonic in LMS, and that's why I feel like, especially against Sonic in LMS, he should get a minor, if not severe, speed buff, depending from character to character. I don't think that when Omega comes out, he should get a severe speed buff, because Omega, I guarantee you, is going to be a slow tank fortress of a character, and I'm really excited for when he comes out, because there's so many routes they can go with him. I'm gonna get back on topic though. Rage really stops that Eggman, Metal Sonic, and Sonic combo from getting out of hand. But Tripwire doesn't have anything like that, because Kolosis has his counter. Counter really helps with making survivors think. And it is a little overtuned because it ragdolls. Ragdoll is a horrible thing to be adding to this game, but I'm not a developer, and I'm sure that they had some thought process behind it that I'm not quite grasping. Tripwire has nothing, and it leads to these boring segments where you'll get stunned by everyone, but there is no, oh, you got Rage, so you might get it cut off, or resistance. I think Kolosis has a resistance. Either way, it's horrible, and there's nothing you can really do to stop it. But, I mean, yeah, they are really map dependent. I feel like for a buff, they should have it to where they're the more wide open the map, the larger the trigger on their mines are. It's map dependent, which may be a little hard to implement, but it is really neutral, because if you scale it right to certain maps, of course there will be cheesy and cheeky things that you can do with it, especially on large maps, because you could just make a mine zone around a down survivor. And maybe you should make it to where, if a survivor goes down near a mine, nothing happens, but if a survivor goes down and then you place a mine, maybe the mine doesn't activate until after they're back up. That might be really helpful for cheesy and cheeky people. But overall, I do think Tails Doll is really well balanced. I do think that their beam is both overpowered and underpowered. Not underpowered. I feel like it's a little bit overpowered, but I feel like there's nothing you can really do to stop it from being overpowered without making it obsolete. Because if you lower its damage to 10, then it's like, it's good, but it's not really something you would want to use as much. And if you lower it anything below 10, then it's nothing you would want to use almost ever. I think the tracking does help with that, but I do think that it's nothing that you can really chance with just statistic buffs like cooldown and such. Just something to think about. I do think that the Eggman and Metal Minesweeper combo is actually really, really healthy for the counterplay, and I don't think that they should stop. They should nerf it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Metal Sonic can like body tank a mine, and after doing that, Eggman can heal them back up, and they could just go searching around playing Minesweeper the whole time, so that Tripwire doesn't really have mines anymore. It's healthy counterplay. It's emergent counterplay, and I think it's good. I do think that Beam shouldn't kill, and if it is about to kill, I think it should leave them at 1 HP, so that way it isn't actually a finisher tool. Because I've gotten some cheeky kills where I'll just like snipe someone from across the map using Beam. I do think that Tether's range should be slightly longer. I don't think that it... I feel like it deals a little bit too much damage. I feel like it should deal less damage, but have larger range. Easier to hit, but less rewarding. You get what I mean? Continuing with this, I think new maps are the newest maps, mainly Green Hill. I do think that Angel Island is not horribly large, but I do think it's annoyingly large. There's too many particles, and it's caused 2011X's God's Trickery to become annoying, especially if you mess up and don't look at the outline. You're not seeing anything after that. You're completely blind, and your controls are reversed. Not actually, but you get what I mean. It's a little bit of a hyperbole. They're a little bit too large. It's the issue now is pacing, because for the killer, people just escape, and if you try to chase after them, you're going to get stunned, especially if you're playing Tails Doll. And if you're playing Survivor, the best thing to do is just hide in the corner of the map, because I mean, especially if you're playing Metal Sonic, which, yeah, maybe it's a little bit of just me not wanting to get targeted. I'm playing a little bit quiet, I guess. I don't know. I try to pick and choose when I go in, but overall, it leads to like team rotations where one half of the team stays and recoups. Then another one goes into stuns, and they swap off over and over again, and it's not really fun, especially if there's a cream. Now, rather than in You Can't Run in the original Green Hill, where you'll have this main center area with like a lot of chases and action taking place, and like a few small scattered quiet areas where you can recoup and heal, it became the recoup and heal is everywhere, and now there's one really, really small spot. Mostly the complaint is just with Green Hill. Overall, I do think Angel Island is visually messy, but I do think that it is actually really fun to play on it design-wise. Just shrink, like maybe split the Green Hill in half and make it 2 separate maps, where it won't take up 2 maps on map choice, but after it's already selected, it'll roll like a coin, basically. It'll be either A one half or B the other half. It'll shrink it down just enough. I don't like the water portion. Overall, it's mostly a decent update. Not just a decent, it's a good update. But continuing with the maps, Kolosis, he doesn't really have any comparisons here, but 2011X has gotten inadvertently buffed, like I said, by the maps. He's got really good movement. He can keep chases, and when a chase ends, he can use God's Trickery. And because of the way that recouping and healing works, you can interrupt recoup sessions in between swap offs, and it's really strong. It's like really I kind of get why they were nerfing him before the update, because 2011X has gotten significantly stronger just by the changed map design. Overall, I do think that it's a great update. I do really enjoy it. I just think Kolosis is horrible to verse and boring to play as. But I do want to get to Fleetway. So Kolosis, their balanced choice is their speed, but it's balanced in isolation instead of with synergy with the rest of his kit. And so it's not really a balancing choice here. He's supposed to be a tank, but instead of balancing the speed with the rest of his kit, they balance the speed with, I don't know how to explain this, but they balance the speed in isolation. With Fleetway, they're balancing the health in isolation. He's effectively a glass cannon without being made of glass. He can fly, which completely ruins map geometry and routes, which I'll get into flying later. I don't really think that flying belongs in outcome the same way that Silver and Fleetway are doing it. I think Tails has a really good version of it. It's very limited, and you'll be caught out if you don't use it well. But Silver, his meter is balanced in isolation instead of with synergy in the rest of his kit. Fleetway, it's balanced in isolation, and Metal Sonic needing to take 60 to 70 damage. Don't say it. 60 to 70 damage just to deal 15 damage to Fleetway. That's at least what I've heard from the ratios. That's horrible. That is absolutely horribly designed, especially since Fleetway has 3 times the health as Metal Sonic. I'm not counting that extra 25% because you only get it for like the first 2 hits for 2011X, and you only get it for the first slam, and it's not really usable anything past that. Maybe you should get some sort of buff related to that, but I don't really want to talk about that because I do think that Metal Sonic's in a really good place. Emergent balancing. Fleetway is, he gets a piss beam, he gets tracking, he flies, he deals the highest damage. Well, not the highest damage, but he deals really high damage. He's fast, and he's really bulky, and any slightly competent Fleetway player will more than likely not even have to worry about health, because if you're fast, you're not going to be able to take damage because you're playing fast. People aren't going to get the chance to predict because you're already there, and people aren't going to get the chance to stun because you just dodged out of the way. And especially against Metal Sonic's going to get, the flight's just going to become invisibility, but better in almost every way, besides the fact that you can't go invisible. But the invisible part of invisibility is kind of broken because you can see the outline, and it's not really the useful part. It's about the speed and the jump pad tech. Overall, Fleetway sounds horrible. Overall, Furnace, I'm going to play them either way, but the problem is Furnace, he can fly, he's got a charge, and the charge is basically just a better version of 2011X's again, because it's consistent, and while it can be interrupted, it's still much stronger, and it's almost better in every way besides, I don't think charge allows him to fly in this scenario, but either way, it's too powerful. He's on par with 2011X as is, but the problem is he's a generalist, jack of all trades, alongside a specialist that's working alongside him. So that means that doesn't only mean that they are jack of all trades. That means that they have a specialist and a jack of all trades, meaning that they shine in all regards, but they shine even more in certain regards, which is really, especially like cutting off and trapping. Unless there's some huge balancing thing here, I think Furnace is going to be extremely overpowered because there's 2 of them, and they're balanced as individual killers rather than as a collective 2 killers. Overall, never mind. And if you're saying, some might say that, oh, well, we haven't seen Starved yet. What if Starved's just really weak? That's bad. You want both killers to be around the same level, so that way each one's having fun. So that way the Starved player isn't just stuck with a really crappy killer. while the other person's playing Furnace and having the time of their life. Plus, you have to account for not only are there 2 killers, they're also losing a survivor, and that can be really vital, especially for certain comps. Especially if it was like day 1, you might lose the cream player that's forced to play cream every round, and that might be really important. I know they're gonna add more characters, and they still already creams. I haven't seen a cream ever since the update because of this. Overall, that they don't seem balanced with each other in mind, because the conjunction of 2 very powerful killers, it's already a bit much. I'm sorry for not editing this video very well. It's more of a rant. It's not scripted. Put some outcome memories, background footage, and Sonic Robo Blast. Also toss some Subway Surfers in there. That's a joke. Hee hee, ha ha. Meatbag.